Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Discover a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone, so we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural Then and Now.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm so happy to be here.
Me too. Welcome to a new episode of Don't Blame Me.
You know what we're not going to do? Blame us.
Why would we?
We're without blame. We're without fault. And you might be wondering how we know that. And it's because we put it in our title and we consulted with legal representatives to make sure that it was enough of a catch-all. If you took our advice
We
and
consulted
something
with...
went wrong, not on us.
Yeah. I was about to say a fictional lawyer, but they're on TV, so I can't mention them. Who
Yeah.
are some book lawyers?
You know I'm not getting down any of those. I'm keeping my ass off of Book Talk so I don't have to see those fucking live videos of people with their cheeky little smile wishing they could diddle themselves while reading their horny little fucking books.
Just imagine, but don't imagine. Their jaws are just creamed, and
No,
they're
Melissa,
just
that's what
sitting
I'm
there,
saying.
and they
I'm
can't
just like,
do
get
anything
out of
about
there.
it. As soon as they go off live, they're diddling their doodah.
They're prepping and priming the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't ask to be a part of this foreplay.
Right.
You nasty. Oh, nasty. Disgusting.
Speaking of, I didn't know that when Kiki went on Raven's podcast, I didn't realize that was Raven's podcast. I just thought, I don't know, I thought it was Kiki's podcast, but it was Raven. Raven and her wife have a podcast together.
I know that, but I do think it was Kiki's podcast.
The setup they're in the one for Raven's podcast, because I saw today a video where Raven asked Whoopi, she's like, I wish you were gay.
And she said that.
And Whoopi said,
okay.
Women have been asking me this all my life. I'm
said,
not.
Bitch, get in line. And her wife is like, okay, cool.
Her wife was like, that's wishful
swap.
thinking. Maybe they did, but they're in the setup that they have for Raven and her. What is her wife's name? I don't know. Raven and her wife's podcast.
Her last name wife. Is that disrespectful? No.
She's never watched Raven on television, so
she cherry picked what content she watched
as a child,
and there was a through line.
Mm-hmm.
She ignored the biggest ones, the best ones, and I say this as someone who consumed them all, who is also palm colored like her, and she ignored the creme de la creme, the pinnacle, the best thing that has ever been put out from them, for ones that I also enjoyed, but I'm not, I have eyes and I have ears.
But like, of any of that, who's come back as a full grown adult and they've let them like still have their show?
And who was able to be a part of that machine and pump out a level of talent, musically, dance, as well as acting, comedic timing at that age consistently from the time that they started as a child, weeblin' wobbling up until adulthood. Doesn't happen.
Right.
That person avoided the child star syndrome, which is not the, the chaos and the mental anguish that's coming from it, but the other side, the child star syndrome, where you're really good when you're a kid and then you get older and it doesn't necessarily match up. This person, the talent never went away. And you married that talent.
And even now you haven't gone back and watched anything?
And also, Raven would so sit there with you and watch that shit. Like, come on. Don't pretend it's like, well, no,
but
I can't. Like,
how can
been
you
banned.
support her current endeavors without knowing where it came from?
You can't. And that's why I refer to her as her wife.
She seems like a crystal.
She does seem like a crystal, but I really don't think they like each other. Her name's Miranda.
Okay.
That is such a Miranda.
Mariah's book is so long. I'm still in it. And I still got
pages?
like an hour.
Oh,
well,
no,
I'm listening to it because I want to listen to Mariah Carey read her book and sing some little dippity doo bop bop bops. I'm angry about a lot of things that has happened to her, and now I am a Mariah. Her fans are called lambs, and now I'm in it. I'm in it, and I just want to fight people for her.
Oh, you know what? I need to do that because I need to read that because I need a new fandom. Like, I need to become... I love getting obsessed with things and people.
And she truly loves her fans. Like, back before there was social media, she had like a website set up where she would call and leave voice messages on it. And she talks about how she like loves social media now because like when things go askew or awry, she knows that like the people that truly need to know what's going on can know what's going on and then also defend you. And she also had this thing was like, if Princess Diana lived long enough to have like an Instagram account, then how much things where she could control her own narrative, how things could be different.
Which you sold me. You know how much I fucking ride for Princess Diana.
Yeah.
Mariah Carey, a prophet of our generation. I bet Taylor Swift was a Mariah Carey fan because that's Mariah. I mean, the people like to pioneer Taylor Swift was like the early social media fan experience, but she wasn't doing like, she was on MySpace, but like not really. So like there are people who were way, way, way bigger in all of that. And I bet Mariah was like Kelly Clarkson's inspiration. And so she's been around forever.
Yeah. So
that's okay. I'm reading it.
You listen to it. Like I think you want to listen to it.
Okay. I have to listen and follow along though, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here for it. I'm happy for your lamb journey, and I can't wait to join you on the lamb place where lambs live.
Pasture?
I was like, the field? Anyways, how did we get here?
We were talking about divas, Miranda Lambert, Miranda from the wife.
There you go.
Yeah. What a journey. Anyways, what is this podcast, Megan?
This podcast is where we give you wonderful, amazing, life-changing advice, and we are able to do so because A, we said so, B, we are incredibly qualified, and C, stop asking questions. How are we qualified? To that, we say we have been bestowed a gift from the sea, the air, the sun, the wind, fire, all of the elements. We've got all of those.
Because we live in California, so.
Did you get the push notification where it said, earthquake coming?
I was literally standing outside and I didn't have my phone because I was eating a boiled egg and I didn't want to open it inside my hotel room. So I was standing outside.
On your little balcony with your boiled egg, wobbling and wobbling?
Yeah, I was out and I just hear all these notifications going off and I was like, what the fuck is happening? So I finished my egg and go inside and they're like, it was an earthquake. I'm literally standing outside, didn't feel anything, but the people on the higher floors did feel it.
Oh, weird. Moss got a notification. I didn't get one. And I was like, that's hella weird. And I don't think we felt the big one, but I definitely felt an aftershock when we were there. But it was more of like it's just kind of like it feels like you're settling again. But Lily was in the epicenter and like everything fell off of her walls and broke. And she said she was on FaceTime with Jesse, and Jesse said it sounded like someone was like breaking into her house, or there was like thunder. Like you could hear the house shake. And then Lily like hung everything back up, and then she texted me a picture. She goes, "Just got home. These fell down." And I was like, "Bitch, you've lived in California your whole life. Aftershock. You cannot put anything back up for like 3 days. Like, What are you doing?" So, yeah, you're right. That is where we live. That is the all elements at once. So yeah, and what we lack in credentials, we make up for in
opinions.
I know. I keep thinking about it every time, and then it's like a thought that like it's a quick flash, and then suddenly it's gone from my brain. Like most things are right now. Small shelf life up here. So yeah, we've got multiple ways now that you can write in, call in, leave us a voice memo, and we listen to that or read that out loud, and we give you advice on the predicament that you are currently facing. So if you want to call in and leave us voicemail, you can do so at 310-694-0976. International listeners, you can send us an audio message at meganpodcast@gmail.com. Both of those have to stay under 3 minutes. So we do ask that you write everything down, include your ages, if there are multiple people in the story, if it's about a relationship, how long you've been together, a friendship, how long have you been friends? Like, give us enough of the backstory so we can have a good sense of the characters. If you would like to include pronouns, please feel free to do so. It is all anonymous, so everything will be, we're not attaching it to your name or anything. So if there are multiple characters in all of this, it is very helpful for us to have those names there. Come up with create the lore of your own life. And then we can follow along, and we can only give advice based on the information that you give us. And if there are holes or gaps, we will have to fill in the blanks ourselves, and we can't always fill them in correctly. So we do really encourage that you write it down, read it over, practice, time it out, but then also just think about, okay, what things could I be missing here? And if it's way under 3 minutes, add more of those details back, because we want to take your word for some of the stuff, but we got to know the history. So yeah. And then if you want to send us a write-in, keep that under 300 words. International listeners, you can send us a audio message at meganpodcast@gmail.com. And for write-ins, you can send us 300 words or less describing what's going on. So, write it down how you would read it out loud. And you can send that to meganpodcast@gmail.com as well. Or you can shoot us a DM over on Instagram, and we will read that aloud as well. And we also have a Patreon. So you can support the show if that is something that you are financially inclined to do. It is the range of what you can support. You can support with as much money as you would like, but we start, our cheapest tier is $1 a month, and we have different things we offer at that. So you can watch the video versions of the podcast, but we also do live streams twice a month. And we have video versions of this podcast as well as the podcast we upload on Thursdays. But am I wrong? So you can see how gorgeous and wonderful we look, and our facial expressions, which are priceless. But also the live streams are really fun, and it is the only social interaction I have. I actually have zero social interaction aside from this podcast, usually. And this podcast includes Melissa and I's social interaction, our social interaction while recording the podcast, and then these live streams. They're really fun, and we get along really well with everybody, and it's just a wonderful time.
And if you are watching on Patreon today, you see that we are separated because I was out and about this weekend, and you can hear more about it tomorrow on See You Next Tuesday.
I, for one, can't wait.
We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to get into our first call. Now we're back from our break, and we're going to get to our first and only call of the episode. Everybody else wrote in.
Hi, Meghan and Melissa. I'm a longtime listener and a first-time caller. I'm 29 years old, use she, her pronouns, and am from the U.S. I currently live in the same area I grew up in, about 15 minutes from my hometown, a pretty conservative place that I've never felt was a true fit. I'm very lucky to have found a job here pretty quickly after graduating college. I'm a teacher.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
And have been working in my district for the 7 years since starting. I live close to my family, and along the way I've met amazing friends and colleagues and have built up a community here. However, despite having some wonderful people around me, I've always felt something was missing by living here. I've lived in this area forever, other than college, and haven't experienced much else. I've been unhappy here for a long time. The conditions in my current job are not helping. Neither is the dating scene. I'm single and have had a lot of trouble finding guys I click with here, and the clientele in this area. All of it has really exacerbated how deflated and truly stifled I feel living here. I'm a dual citizen of another country in the EU, and this summer spent some time traveling to different cities in Europe. I've dreamt about living abroad my whole life, but it's always just been a matter of finding a place I felt could be my home. I have lots of family scattered around different European countries and have luckily spent some time over there with them. But after exploring this summer, I found a city that gave me a feeling that I haven't been able to shake since. After spending some time there, I felt in my gut I needed to live there. The people, the experience, the views, and the energy of the city just really hit different. I already met some friends there, went on a Bumble date that was really fun, and started making some connections. I got so many signs that this could be the place for me. Even meeting a couple who was originally from my area who recently moved there and were so happy in their new city and the decision they made. Because I have EU citizenship, I know that this can help me get started if I do choose to move there. What I'm struggling with most is the guilt I feel for leaving my friends and family here, for leaving my job and my students, and how hard it's going to be to up and move abroad by myself and say goodbye. I understand the transition will be difficult, but I'm so ready to continue to put myself out there and try new experiences that I really just feel like I'm not getting here. I keep going back and forth in my brain of what is the right call for me, and this is probably the most selfish thing I can do right now. The thought of leaving is scary, but the thought of staying and feeling stuck is just as scary, if not more. I feel like I would regret it if I didn't give this a try, but I worry about upsetting and disappointing my loved ones and anyone who depends on me. I think my question is, do I trust my gut? How can I make the right decision for myself? How can I get past the guilt I feel for disappointing people close to me? I would appreciate any and all advice from you guys and anyone out there who maybe has struggled with a similar experience. Thank you both so much for all you do for this community. I love this podcast and love and admire you both. Have a great day. Thank you.
Off the record, will you tell us what city it is? Because I'm just curious. I want to visit there just for fun. I'm not going to move there and follow you and be creepy, but it just sounds lovely.
You're a creep.
I am. Sue me. Don't sue me. People have already tried. People, not singular, multiples. Anyways, what are your thoughts?
I think it's okay to be selfish.
To give people a little background, you are the only child who has flown the coop in a plain sense, right?
Yes, I left at the tender age of, I don't even remember how old I was. However old I was 12 years ago. And I was the only one to leave, but my sisters had plans of leaving and they just never did. And we also moved around a lot as a kid. So I understand them wanting the stability for their children because we were always out and about. But I told my family I was leaving. No one believed me until I was packing up the car. Well, my mom kind of believed me because she's like, I'm coming with you to drive across the country. And then we took Melanie and my niece, who was she's 4 going on 4. She was 4, going to be 5 in a few months. Packed up the car and we were off. Yeah, I left and it was the best thing for me. It's still the best thing for me to be where I am right now. And I didn't see it as being selfish. I saw it as doing what's best for me. And I think sometimes you just have to put yourself first. And yeah, it's going to be scary. It's a new place, but you've visited before. You love it. And You're going to be out there, meet new people. And I do want to say, like, I don't want you to feel like once you get there, then you're back in the same position that you were in, like the same rut. You've got to like actually go and do things because you can just easily end up in the same position. Like sometimes the location doesn't change the circumstances of your feelings. It's just at first it's like that new thing, and then you're just settle back into your old routines and same old again. And I can get even here, like I get in those routines sometimes where I'm just like, there's nothing new, but like I force myself to get out and go places. And especially this year, I am traveling more than I have before, and like just going to different events and stuff. And you can. I do believe you can enjoy yourself anywhere, but sometimes you just need a change in scenery and a change in location and just something to kind of kick you in the butt to get it going.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. And I think like your worry and fear of like letting people down and disappointing them. I don't know how like candid you've been with the people in your life about like your feelings towards a town you're in. I have no issue with people having different experiences than me in like the same like in the same town or whatever. Like there are lots of people who like really hate LA. There are people who hate where I grew up. Like there are those things, and like those are all valid. But if I had a friend or someone who was close to me who was like, you know, like miserable and like they went to this place and they're like, I love it, and like I felt so much happier, I would feel disappointed in myself if I urged them to stay, even knowing that they weren't happy or knowing that they were sacrificing their own happiness for other people. Like for me, if I know that someone's doing that, like I want everyone to be the happiest versions of themselves. If you're sacrificing any of that for me, like that's not happiness to me. Like that's not, I can then not feel happiness in that sense because you feel responsible. So I think if you've been honest with people and it's a transition and it can be like, you know, scary, and sometimes it can be hard to decipher people who want to make sure that, you know, that they will miss you without saying things to make you feel like you shouldn't leave. Like it is a hard line to like how people should respond to that, because some people can think if they only come with an excitement that it feels like, oh, you don't even really care that I'm like leaving. So I think giving people some kind of like grace with that, and it can be a transition and hard, but doesn't have to be forever. And it also doesn't have to be like permanent. And if I had a friend who like moved somewhere really cool, I would be like, I'm going to come visit you. Like, that's going to be amazing. Like, that's going to be so fun.
Even Lily moved just a couple hours away, and it's like, great, that's good for you. And she's like, come visit. And it's like, yeah,
exactly. And so like that stuff's fun and nice. And it's hard when it feels like you're the only one or like you're the first one. And I didn't have like the same like experience as that. Like but I dropped out of college and, you know, wasn't really like going back home. And that was hard. And then all of my other friends did that. And then it was like, oh, okay, cool. And so it can feel like, especially if you're in a place where everyone kind of stays put and they've all done that, you might be the first and you might be the only, but that is not a on you situation. Like it's just a byproduct of some places and some towns. And you're in a really lucky situation where you actually don't know other people who have chosen to stay where they are, stay in your same small town, like have been there from the beginning. Sometimes people don't have the option otherwise. And so if they had your circumstance, I think a lot of people would fully jump on that. So I would make sure that you know that people their responses can come from a place of like not knowing how to express that they'll miss you, but also from a place of like, you know, jealousy and like wishing that could be them. And that is not your problem to like coddle that. That's something that they need to process on their own. But people are allowed to miss you, and you're allowed to say, I will miss you too. And then if they guilt you while you're there, you're allowed to like not answer the phone all the time. Like those people's feelings about what you choose to do with your life, that's not your responsibility. That's theirs to process on their own. And as for like a teacher-student thing, you know, there's a lot of unnecessary strain that our government puts on teachers in the sense of like having them be parents, having them raise kids, having them teach everything, having them put their lives on the like spend money on their own money on school supplies and doing all of these things and stressing the importance of that. And teachers are incredibly important to children, but I didn't have a lot of great teachers, and I'm fine. And if I had wonderful teachers who, you know, whether they had kids or they moved or they left, and I was sad, but I'm okay. And I was okay after that. And I know I had the teachers who I was very close to, which was like my elementary school ones, the ones who like I had good relationships with, when they left at different time periods to have kids and one left to like travel, I just remember thinking, specifically one teacher, I just remember thinking like, wow, that's so cool. I can't wait to like be an adult and do that. And I remember like she came back like a couple years later and was either substitute teaching, and I saw her in our town. And I was just like, oh my God, like I remembered that. Like I remembered how cool that was to watch someone as an adult. And like, there's that joke that like kids are surprised that their teachers don't sleep under their desks. I didn't really have that as much. Like it was my teacher had like, and it was because I grew up in a very affluent area, and they could be teachers because they came from money, but knowing that they could like go and do those kinds of things. And even though the lives that they had before they were teachers, like as a student, that made me see them more, not just as teachers, but like role models and people I wanted to be like, and like have lives I wanted to live as an adult. Like I thought was like so cool. I had a teacher who went to Europe to be a ballerina, and I thought that was like amazing and just so cool. So, you know, you're doing this for you to be happy. And like, I think that's something that professionally and socially is like something that I value in friends, and I find inspiring in like friends, with people who are like putting their happiness first. I'm like, yeah, I should do that. Like, that's amazing. And good for you.
Good for you. And you can always come back if you don't like it.
Yeah.
Or go somewhere else. You can travel. There's so many different places in Europe. If you've got dual citizenship too.
I know. I looked into how I could become a Irish citizen, because it's, you know, if you have how many, whatever it is, everybody's dead. And my dad doesn't have the greatest memories. I don't know that I could even figure out if I could. But I looked into it at one point because I was like, how cool would that be?
All right, next one is a write-in. I'm she, her 24, having a hard time with my friend Sophie, she, her 24. We've been friends for 12 years, but our friendship has been an on and off for the last 4. She recently came back into my life after not having spoken for a year. She's in a 5-year relationship that I believe is incredibly toxic. Sophie has come to me a lot asking for advice because she wants to break up with her boyfriend. She still gets back with him after I give her advice. This happened again recently, since she's having second thoughts on moving in with him next month. I told her to leave him if that's what she feels, but the next morning I got a text from her saying everything's good, and she realized that she was still in love with him. I told her I'm happy if she's happy, but I'm not 100% sold on their relationship. She got pissed with me and said I was a bad friend since she can't come to me with her problems. I'm not sure what to do. I want to be a good friend of Sophie, but I don't want to enable her to stay in a toxic relationship. Any advice would be appreciated.
So this is hard. Okay, so she's saying that like you've been honest, and what we say in these situations is you can be honest one time when they ask, and then you have to just disengage because you've said your piece, and like people don't forget that. So like, if you say like, I don't really think this is great, I think this is like pretty toxic, they don't forget that you've said that. But then she's saying that she feels like she can't come to you with her problems. My next suggestion would be like, you know, telling her like, I've expressed how I feel about him, and I don't think this relationship is like great for you. Like, I think this is pretty toxic, and I've expressed that, but I still want to maintain a friendship. So like, I just like don't want to participate in this kind of stuff. And like, I say this like with love, like if something changes and you need me, like I'm always going to be there to like help with this. But I just think that we should keep these, I shouldn't be the person you come to with this kind of stuff, because I don't think I'm going to be giving you the answers that you want to hear. And I want to be truthful with you. And like, it's either that and you stand your ground, and then she's like, okay, well, I don't want to be friends with you right now. Or you just listen and you don't offer insight, But that's also hard.
Yeah, it's like, are you coming to me for advice, or are you coming just because you want a sounding board? I'm also like tripping up on the part where she's like, I've realized I'm still in love with him, or what did she say? She said, I realize
I'm still in love with him.
That I'm still in love with him, but like, y'all are moving in together. Was there a moment where you were like, I'm not in love with him? What was that?
Yeah, let's circle back to that.
Yeah. Please. Like, I need more information on what was going on there. Like, what made her think that she was in love with him, even though they're moving in together next month? And you're just like, leave him. And she was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. But then she talks to him and she's like, no, I'm still in love with him. And then texts you and it's like, everything's cool. We're fine. I'm in love with him. What? I think she doesn't have emotional maturity, and he is being toxic or manipulating her into these feelings that she doesn't actually feel. And so, like, if you still want to be her friend, I think you just got to listen to it and not give advice. And if you are ready for this friendship to end, then this is where it ends, because she doesn't actually want a friend. She just wants someone. Because it's a relationship. A friendship is still a relationship, and it should still be two-way. But if she just wants somebody to listen to her problems and that's it, without having an opinion, get on Reddit. Actually, Reddit's more opinionated. Yeah. Write in a journal and a diary, and then put your feelings away.
Lock it up. Give a little kiss and put it back on your shelf. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I mean, you said that your friendship has been on and off for the last 4 years, and this is a 5-year-long relationship that she's been in. So, like, it's pretty easy to tell that that's been probably a lot of the cause of the friendship strife between you two. And if it's doesn't even feel necessarily directly related, it probably is. Like, I've had people who like have gotten into relationships where I'm like, I don't particularly care for your relationship, but I also, like, in the kindest way possible, like, I just don't really give a shit. Like, I don't really.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys. It's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast. We bring on guests to share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like, it would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
Like, care who you're dating. Like, if you're happy, I'm happy. Like, it does not affect me. Until then, suddenly it's like, oh, no, you're actually like a really shitty friend when you're in a relationship. Like, and some people are like that. And like, it sucks. And I experienced it in high school and then again as an adult. And I was like, oh shit, what? Like, okay. So some people like seek chaos in their lives because that's what they're used to. Maybe that's a relationship that was mirrored at home, and that's what was shown as like caring and love. And sometimes people also asking other people for help is it's the way that they can ask their friends, like, do you care about me? But they feel weird asking, do you care about me? And so then they bring up a lot of problems that they're having, and then they ask for help with that and solving that, and that makes them feel loved and taken care of. And it's not sustainable because the effort it takes to try and problem solve is far more than like listening to that. And it's far more than just expressing how much you care about someone. And it obviously puts a strain on everything. So I personally think that you either let her learn the lesson on her own because you can't prevent it and you don't say anything, or you ask to be removed from the narrative, or you take a step back from the friendship if it's not serving you, because you also don't owe her that if you're not getting anything in return. Like you said, it's a relationship. It needs to be beneficial to both parties. So
it's like it's been on and off for 4 years. Can't be that good of a friendship.
Yeah. And also, like, I don't think friends can enable someone to stay in a toxic relation. Like, the only way that you're doing that is being like, hey, I think you should stay in this relationship. It's not toxic. But like being friends with someone who's in a toxic relationship, like I think the same way, whether it's like abusive relationship, emotional abusive relationship, like being friends with somebody who's going through a really hard time doesn't enable them to stay in that hard time. Like the same thing with people who are struggling with like active drug use. Like that is not loving you while you're going through it, is not encouraging you to go through it. It's like telling you that like you're worthy of love and I care about you regardless of like the circumstance that you are in and whatever role you're playing in that circumstance. But in these cases, like, you know, you get stuck in a cycle. And so I don't think that is enabling her. And I think not saying anything is also not enabling her. Like you've said your piece. She'll never forget that you've said your piece, but you don't need to waste the time and the energy trying to convince her of something that like she has to see on her own and make that choice on her own.
Yeah.
But that's a hard position to be in. It does feel like a rite of passage at this point though. You know, like
everybody has to go through it.
Yeah. Like you go through like at some point you are the one in the toxic relationship where your friends are like, ah, and then at another point you are the friend with the friend in the toxic relationship and you're like, ah, and then hopefully we get out of it.
And the thing is like in retrospect, they'll be like, why didn't you tell me? And it was like,
I did.
Everybody's been telling you. You just didn't want to, you were told it, you just didn't want to listen. You heard it, but you listened, but you didn't hear it.
Exactly. Well, best of luck. And here's to hoping that Sophie gets out of that.
Yeah.
Do you want me to read the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love listening to your podcast at work. I'm a 21-year-old female, and I have a super complicated relationship with my mom. Wow, that sucks. I so can't relate. I was what some people would call a bad kid. I had a boyfriend when I wasn't allowed to have one. I smoked and I drank, but I think it was how I self-medicated and asked for help because I was abused both mentally and physically. When I was a kid, I frequently ran away from home, and when I was 18, I thought I was gone for good. I left with nothing and thought I was done with my mom, but my other family members guilted me into reconciling with her. I know I need to go to therapy, but I can't afford it right now. But do you think I should go no contact with all my family? Even though I love them mostly, I don't feel safe when I'm around my mom. Also, if I do, how should I go about doing it? I'm a huge fan of two things. Tattoo them on my lower back. Divorce and no contact. Like those are like, I fucking ride for both of those things so fucking hard. And this is like it's going to be a personal preference. I will always recommend people in Raised by Narcissists. The subreddit is like very helpful, as well as like, I think there's like a just the narcissist one, or like children. There's specific ones about children of, because a lot of like the dialogue for narcissists and abusive relationships and poor relationships are done in the context of romantic partnerships, not necessarily parent-child. So finding those things to see all of that stuff is like really helpful. And what is widely accepted as like the most effective thing is no contact. And the process of no contact is hard, and it's not usually sudden, instant, nor all-encompassing with everybody that you need to go no contact with. And like I had to, you know, I very much thought that like I had already done what I needed to do, and like it's a hard choice to make, and it's the last option. Like nobody picks that as the first thing to do. It becomes the only last possible thing. And then for me, like years and years later, it was like, oh shit, I actually have to do this again. And like I have to do this with other people and things. And it can be because you learn new information. It can be because relationships change, or it can be that like once you've gone no contact with someone for a while, like for a long time, and you start forming other relationships in a life without them, and like a life completely separate from them, you start holding all of your other relationships to a higher standard and a higher expectation. And you can realize that, you know, maybe these other family members who are in your life, the earlier point when you had cut her out, they were not nearly the most toxic people in your life at all. And now when you've eliminated the shit and you then realize like, oh, I guess when it's like compared to the worst of the worst, they weren't that bad. But now when I've got all these other great relationships, these ones they're not good. And that's okay. And it doesn't mean that like, oh, you fucked up and you should have done that sooner. Like it's a process and it's a journey, and people show their true colors and their intentions over time. But I'm big believer in anybody who, and I don't even necessarily know that people need to know what went down exactly, but like if I met someone and they said they like, oh yeah, I'm no contact with my family, even without my own personal connection to that, why would I assume that someone did that and chose that for any other reason than it's like, oh, the circumstance is so bad, that's what you had to do. So I think anyone kind of questioning that and encouraging reconciliation is at best coming from a place of like total ignorance. But in the case where they know, it's like they're invalidating everything that you went through. And I know you can love people and those people cannot be good for you at the current time. And that also doesn't mean that like they won't change and they won't grow, and their encouragement of reconciliation might be coming from a place of like, they have a lot of really like shitty relationships in their life and they've gotten really used to accepting that, and watching you not accept that behavior is hard for them. And so it makes them have to reflect on their own choices. And then years down the road, they might make those better choices for themselves and, you know, reach out and realize that that was not good on them. But going no contact with family is, a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. Like a lot of people are really uncomfortable with that. A lot of people also think that all family toxicity and all families are the same. And even if you like feel like you know it or you feel like you saw enough of it, I think if someone goes no contact, like you have to assume the worst. Like it's just, people don't do that for no reason. People don't want to have poor relationships with the people who brought them into the world. Like they just like, they don't. And so anyone trying to get you to reconcile is doing it from a place of, I think, projecting, and not from a place of like your best interest at heart. And it sucks. And it sucks because it feels like, you know, you don't want to lose all of your family. But family is like, we're not talking about like the science sense. Like the concept of family that I assume, and I can also be projecting, like that you want is not what the results of a blood test are. It's a relationship. And if you're not having that relationship, you're not really losing anything there. You're cutting the dead weight. It sucks though. So I would say, like, how do you go about doing it? It depends on the person. It depends on, I think, their proximity to the situation, their closeness to the situation, because you said you don't feel safe when you're around your mom. And so, and this again from personal experience, that like people who have more of the ability, whether that's like financial, emotional, or whatever, to be used to cause more harm to you, that make you feel less safe, those people, my belief system is I block, do not respond, no contact on absolutely anything. And then for people who it's kind of like they're the shrapnel, it's like the excess, it's coming from a more emotional place, but it's not necessarily people who you think have the or even have like the means to be manipulated to put you in an unsafe situation. Those ones, like having conversations with them and just like letting them know and like just laying it all out and like your feelings and like what you need to do for you, and just being truthful and not trying to like sugarcoat it or like blanket it. But then after that, it's like, whether it's muting them or blocking them, you can have it be a trial period. You can have it be like a permanent sort of thing, but it's not a conversation. It's like a statement. So there's no response, making sure that you don't have any questions in what you're saying, and you're just letting them know what's happening. But also, if that seems like emotionally taxing, you just also don't have to do that. Like, I'm a big run away from my problems kind of person, or like I'm ignore my problems kind of person. But I think time and space away, even without a conversation, can offer you clarity to know if that's the right choice you also want to make. So I don't think that's ignoring a problem, because if I can actually successfully ignore a problem by not being in contact with someone, that's not me ignoring the problem. That's being like, oh, the contact was making a problem that was there. So, but I feel for you and I'm very sorry. And I just want to say that, like, you are not a bad kid. And like, there are no bad kids, and you are not a bad kid. And yeah. And I want you to stay safe.
You weren't a bad kid. You were someone who was doing the best they could with the situation they were given.
Yeah.
And you didn't have any guidance in what was happening in your life. The person that is supposed to be there to protect you and be like, you're like their number one responsibility failed you. And that's not on you at all. And then Meghan took everything away because she has experience with this and I don't.
What?
But as I have said now a few times, I've been listening to Mariah Carey's book, and she refers to her family members that she is no contact with as her exes. So she calls her mom her ex-mom and her brother and sister her ex-brother and sister. And she said that when she shifted to that mindset, it helped a lot of things for her.
That's iconic. That's smart.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. That's
and
a very good call.
She does juggle with, like, does she actually want a relationship with her mom or not? Like, this is something that she's still dealing with all the time. That she's like, ideally, I want a relationship with her, but that's only in the ideal sense. But, you know, she still has other family members. That's just all to say, like, you know, also framing it in a way can help.
Yeah, it's a mindset shift, and it's I will say, like, in the like recent of me like talking about, and even talk about in, like, very vague terms, like my like situation I've been dealing with for the last couple months, I've had people in my real life reach out who knew some of my situation because like we grew up together, or like knew like my situation but like has not been up with like the last couple of years, who was like, just wanted to like give you a heads up, like I'm dealing with this too, and like, you know, I've had a hard time like finding a social circle or people who like understand it, so like it's very hard. And I was like, fuck, like these are people that I know personally who have felt like the same way, that like where you feel this kind of like pressure in this, and I didn't know that they were going through that at that moment. They didn't know that I was going through that at that moment. So finding that sense of community, and like I recommend Reddit all the time, but like finding a sense of community of people who've gone through this is so important, because other people cannot understand. And there's a really big difference between like a toxic relationship and a tumultuous relationship, or a relationship that was toxic, that can have toxic tendencies, and people who are, or individuals who are toxic, who are working on themselves, versus like an abusive relationship. And so this is like one of the few things that I would advise, unless you know the person really, really well, that I would not open up to this with people who have the ability to invalidate you and hurt you. So like very close friend, that can be hard, and like you breadcrumb it, you know, and then you don't necessarily have to feel comfortable telling someone like, you know, all of the shit that has happened, and then fix a while. Like it took Melissa after a while, I was finally like, okay, so you need to be done. You need to be done with some of these. And like, that's something that it's like, you need to be careful with who you let have a voice in all of this. And like a good friend, like someone who like really cares about you and like will listen for a long time before they say anything, and they'll say what you want. They'll agree with what you want to do, and they'll tell like that, but they'll not be like, no, I think you should stay this or this. But yeah, it's really, really hard. And you can love people and they can still not be good for you. And like, you can love people and they can also not know how to love you, which is a very hard thing to hear. So I'm sorry for that, but your safety should be the number one priority. And anyone who also doesn't take that seriously means that they just don't understand. And then they are no longer safe people. Wow. It's crazy. I have zero experience with any of that.
I have no idea who you're talking about in any of those situations.
Absolutely none.
All right, we're going to take a break. And we're back. All right, next one. I'm writing to ask advice about my sister's relationship. She's 19 years old and has been in a relationship with her best friend Taylor, who is 17, for about 4 months. My family and I are concerned about the relationship because it seems toxic. Theme of the episode. First of all, I would never date a 17-year-old when I'm 19. The age gap is just too big. And I think it's important to be with someone who is at a similar stage in life. Secondly, my sister and Taylor haven't told the other two girls in their friendship group about their relationship. They're still hanging out with them like nothing is happening, which I think is dishonest. Finally, my sister seems to be obsessed with Taylor. She's dropped all of her hobbies and canceled a trip she was excited about because Taylor couldn't go with her. To me, this is not healthy behavior. I've tried to convey my thoughts to my sister, but she just accused me of being homophobic. She says that I don't understand her love. I'm not homophobic. I'm bi, by the way. But I do think this relationship is unhealthy. I'm not sure what to do. I don't want to push my sister away, but I also don't want to enable this toxic relationship. Any advice would be much appreciated.
Guess we should repeat the same sentence. You cannot enable a toxic relationship.
No. Yeah, that age gap is concerning when you have someone who is legally adult and the other person isn't.
How did they meet?
They might have been, I don't know.
4 months. So, like, did they
They've
go to
been in a
school
relationship.
together?
That's what I was going to say. Were they friends before? It seems like since they're in the same friend group, if they were friends before, because like that makes sense to me. Like,
yeah, or they work together and it's, that's like, yeah. Because otherwise I'm like, how did you even meet a 17-year-old at 19? But yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, it could have been 18 and 16, whatever. Doesn't matter. The point is, your sister seems to be angry about a lot of things, like, and then projecting those thoughts, like calling you homophobic, but you're bi yourself, and then saying you don't understand her love, which is just odd. Like, it's not just like the relationship is toxic, but your sister might also be toxic too, from the information that was presented here.
Question for you. So when I see this, like the not telling the friends that you're together, like to me, that's not toxic.
That's
like,
not
it's just
toxic
whatever.
to me.
But none of this is toxic. To me, this is dramatic. Like it's very,
That's true.
Wouldn't call it toxic.
Yeah, that's true. It's not toxic. It's dramatic. But I think that her behavior towards you might be toxic.
But I also I don't know that this is a like you said, like I don't know that this is a relationship issue. If it's it might be your sister issue.
It might just a sister issue.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know that this relationship is like bad for her. I also am like not cool with that age gap. Like it's just like weird. I am curious what they have in common because assumedly like they either work together or they know each other from school.
If it's school, it's a little, I think that's different.
Yeah. But I also think that like, depending on where you're located, there is, I mean, age gaps happen in heterosexual relationships all the time, but like they also happen in same-sex relationships a ton. But a lot of that can also come from, yes, predatory, but also like, I know some people who like, when they were in their hometown, there's like 2 other out people. And so it becomes like, you know, there's a lot of closeness that you have there with people who like, you're not constantly surrounded by your peers in the sense of like that community as well.
But they've got 2 people in the same household, so it might not
No,
be
I know. So I'm like,
small.
you know, I mean, statistically, no matter where you are in the town, like that's going to be what you're going to be sampling with, but it's talking about out and all that stuff. So like whatever that is, like, I think that like in the scheme of the age gaps, I think that like, you know, if they went to school together, it makes a little bit more sense. Like, I don't think that that's like the biggest red flag. Mostly because like, it's not like you haven't indicated any issues with the relationship. And like an age gap is an issue because it creates a healthy balance and dynamic in said relationship. But this just sounds like your sister is intense and like a little dramatic and maybe like a little over the top. And I don't know how old you are, like if this is your older sister or your younger sister, but being obsessed with someone that you're dating 4 months in, I don't know how, if they were friends before, like that's very normal. And
yeah, but the hobby thing and canceling a trip because she couldn't go, I think that's not a healthy thing for her to do. But like,
being obsessed, but like if this is your first relationship, like, you know, I remember like being a kid and like having like a crush on someone, and then like, you know, you're going to like visit your grandma and you're like, I don't even want to go anymore because like I can't be like, I want to be able to like text that. Like there's stuff that's just like, it's like there's like a heightened sense of like emotions and things that happen, yes, when you're 16, but also when you're in like your first relationship. It can be your first love. It can be like, there's a lot of times that like we can enter into those phases that we look back on years later and we go, oh my God, that was a lot. And that was like really embarrassing. And I shouldn't have done that. But the viewpoint of the relationship being toxic, I would, right now it looks like your sister's like, she's becoming so infatuated. She's losing herself in this.
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
And I think that's the issue, not the relationship. And to that, I would like, you know, encourage her to like, maybe like there's a hobby that she used to like really love doing that you like doing, and like be like, hey, like I would love if we could go to like the craft store this weekend, and like I thought maybe we could do this together or something like that. Like encouraging that like sense of independence, that sense of self, and like fostering a relationship like with you and her, I think is a great call. But you know, other than that, I think you keep an eye out for if she's displaying unhealthy behaviors towards her partner in the relationship versus like an unhealthy like time balance kind of a thing. But at that point, like there's not much you can say or do, but just encouraging good behavior, and like in the sense of like, let's go do this, and then think, oh my gosh, like I love that, like it's so fun. Oh, you went to go do this thing, like cool, that's great. But you're not her parent, and she's also 19, so there's not much there to like say or do. But this just sounds like your dramatic first love. But again, you didn't say anything about the relationship.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody to specifically know, but I won't. I won't share.
Sounds like a good amount of people.
That's it for our episode.
Woohoo! We hope you all enjoyed this episode. If you did, leave it a review. We appreciate that so much. You can leave a review for the episode specifically on Spotify, or you can head on over to the other podcast apps and leave a review for the show as a whole, which we love so much. As always, you can support the show on Patreon, as well as following us on our socials. And stay tuned for the rest of the content slate we have for you this week. That's it. We hope you all enjoyed, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me, Megan Rinks.
And me, Melissa D. Montz, plus Diamond Imprint Productions.
Post-production sound and editing by Coco Lorenz.
Production assistance by Melanie D. Watson.
And music by Giacomo Picasso and Ryan Hunter.
Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
And we are the co-hosts of the Let me try that again. Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
And we are the hosts of Christmas Countdown Show.
We're so thrilled to be bringing the merriment to you all this holiday season.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be massively merry, gigantically jolly, fantastically festive, as some people might say, Eric. We are all about alliterations, and we are all about Christmas spirit. On Christmas Countdown, we love to count down our top 10 favorite things related to the holiday season. That could be food, movies, music, everything that we all love about this massively merry good time. So wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you click that subscribe button. Eric, are you ready?
I am ready, and we hope that you are too. Merry Christmas, everybody. Let's go. It should be like, let's go, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go Network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go network by listening today. Look for the Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.